Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another Let's Talk. And today we're... Excuse me for just a moment. What the? Who the hell are you? Come on. Oh, you want to go out of here? Hey guys, well, I think I just killed myself, literally and figuratively. Yeah, he ain't getting up. I just straight up murdered the Let's Talk guy, or the Let's Talk version of myself. Well, feels good to pretty much have this show now. And, nice new jacket, because the old one was fucked. Good God, this is probably the darkest sketch I've ever done. Alright, well, only intro. I am a sick bastard. What's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another review and our reboot of Let's Talk. And on today's episode, I would like to ask a particular question. Was Gundam SEED really that bad? As the 9th installment of the Gundam franchise, Mobile Suit Gundam SEED, manga written by Matasuku Iwase, and the anime directed by Mitsuo Fukuda, has always received mixed opinions from Mobile Suit Gundam fans. Funny enough, the manga came out after the anime, so basically this series started as an anime first. It was created by Sunrise Studios, the same anime company behind my all-time favorite anime, Inuyasha. And speaking of Inuyasha, this was an anime I finally remembered from YTV on the anime block Bionics. And yes, while Cartoon Network did air it as part of their Adult Swim Toonami lineup, for a lot of mid-2000s anime fans, this was a pretty great series. It also had its first English dub by Ocean Studios, who have provided many Canadian English dubs for a ton of other animes. Now, surprisingly, the manga is actually an abridged version of the anime, so we're not going to really focus on this more as we are the anime. And again, I must ask the question, why was the anime so hated? I mean, in my opinion, given this is my first Gundam series, I found it pretty entertaining for the most part. Now granted, I'm only 25 episodes in, but for the most part, it's a pretty kick-ass space opera. Or should I say more of a space soap opera? By that is that it's a ton of great sci-fi genres rolled into one. Think Star Wars and Star Trek meets Top Gun, for the most part. But also adding a real sense of legitimate drama, making it more like a soap opera. The The story follows your typical battle of rebels against an evil empire, with the heroic Earth forces battling the evil terrorist space organization ZAFT. Think the Imperial Empire mixed with Tuxedo Mask and you get a pretty good idea what it's like. But the main hero of the story is Kira Yamato, a genetic coordinator created by the ZAFT forces who teams up with the Earth forces and pilots their most powerful Gundam. He's kinda like Maverick, but minus the douchebaggery. He's also joined by his vast amount of Inuyasha voice actor friends, along with two love interests, one being Princess Lacus, who has this weird Pokemon Kirby robot thing named Haro. Yeah, I don't really like Haro. As well as a very twisted character simply known as Flay Ulster. I'll get to her in a sec. But also has to face the rivalry of his best friend slash brother, Atherin, who is the top pilot of the ZAFT forces, and is to be wed Princess Lacus in order to create an alliance between her people and the ZAFT forces. Again, the show is pretty complicated, but overall, I've been having a blast with it. It's full of action, suspense, romance, but the real reason I love it is for its political aspects explaining how the world works, as well as the really poetic drama between the characters. And not to mention, the animation is great, the action sequences are spectacular and a lot of fun, in fact they remind me of Halo. And do I even need to mention the kick-ass opening? Honestly, this anime has some pretty kick-ass openings and closings. One of my favorites being Evoke, which you swear to God could be played at a rave. Even the second opening is great. It's kind of more for a dance party, but if you follow the visuals, it kind of sums up the storyline pretty well. The closing theme is actually pretty cool as well. I always love credits like this that pan through all the characters in a still image of an apocalyptic world. It's kind of haunting, yet it really closes off episodes well. Hell, even the score is great, especially the theme to the Archangel. You swear to God it came off the soundtrack of a Star Wars movie. In fact, that's not a bad idea. Hang on a sec. Consistent. But why is it so hated? Why do so many fans see this as one of the worst series in the Gundam lore? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The show surprisingly has become one of the most popular of the Gundam series in Japan, enjoying high television ratings and DVD sales. Hell, in April of 2004, Bandai Visual announced that over 1 million copies of Gundam SEED DVDs had been sold in Japan alone. Gundam SEED has been praised for being a standout in a long line of Gundam series, but it's also been criticized due to the fact that the original Gundam series that have come before have always been praised quite higher and have somewhat continuities between them. And I think for some hardcore fans, the reason the series hasn't been well praised as of lately is due to the fact that it's in an alternate timeline. Yeah, when you think about it, it's not really in the continuity of previous Gundam series. It kinda stands on its own as its own world and storyline. And honestly, for that reason, I don't mind it so much, because it's an alternate timeline and I don't have to sit through a bunch of other Gundam series. And yeah, I know, I've gotten a ton of people telling me to watch other shows, but I don't know why. I'm so attached to this series, it's kinda hard for me to move away from it. However, some have stated that the show is not that good given the fact that it's slowly paced. And yeah, well, I can kind of see some of that happening. I mean, a lot of the main character's development begin to process along political themes, but I am appealed by that kind of stuff. Maybe it's because I'm older and I'm starting to understand politics more, but I kind of enjoy that with this series. Hell, early in the series, speculations were made regarding the process of characters' relationships, most notably Kira Yamato and Athrun Zala. Some people speculated that they were actually gay lovers. And considering Rule 34 of the internet, the yaoi community would probably make that happen. No, don't look it up. It'll totally ruin your images of the characters. In fact, that already happened to me when I looked up Sango and Kohaku. No! Don't look that up either. It'll give you total Game of Thrones Lannister flashbacks. The show was also questioned for unexpected inclusions, as well as some minor controversy. For example, a lot of fans, including myself, praised the series for bringing some big surprises within the war, as well as revelations regarding character roles. In fact, hell, I'll say this, the first episode I ever watched of the series was in fact the last episode. Now, total spoilers on this one, guys. The final battle of Gundam SEED is honestly pretty dark, shocking, and full of shit-breaking moments. There's times you actually think the characters are gonna lose, especially given the fact that the Zat Force create this giant Death Star meteor thing that can destroy planets instantly. Yeah, I know, it's pretty much a Star Wars ripoff, but yeah, this is a lot darker than any Star Wars movie you would ever see. In fact, they kill one of the main female leads. When I first saw this, I was shitting bricks. Not only was I thinking, Jesus, they killed off the female lead, but also questioning why the hell all these space forces are fighting each other. It actually made me want to go back and watch the series all the way through. It's kind of like watching a murder mystery where you see the killing happen and then you flash back to see where everybody was beforehand when this happened. It's actually kind of a fascinating way to watch it. However, when the series restarted, I only caught the first episode, and then YTV just straight up canceled it. And it took me a while to find a decent copy of the original English dub so I could watch it all the way through. But again, for the most part, the show is actually a pretty legitimate drama. Despite some controversy. There have been some minor controversies with this show, especially with one episode in particular. In episode 16, there's a scene that features Kira Yamato suiting up after getting out of bed where the teenage girl Flay Ulster lies sleeping naked, suggesting a sexual relationship. Now I know the Nostalgia Critic already covered the age of consent in Japan in his Sailor Moon review, but given I don't know the ages of these characters and I can't judge them for that, I'm gonna guess that they're about 17, 18, but still, that's a little young. The Japanese Commission for Better Broadcasting, which I assume is the Asian version of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and not sponsored by viewers like you, reported that viewers field complaints regarding the scene as a show that aired at 6 p.m. where children would be watching. Yeah, guys, you might be surprised at how much content they show to children's audiences at 6 p.m. I mean, even for us here in Canada and the United States, the show aired at 10 or 12 p.m., but 6 p.m.? And for a show like this? Yeah, content like this, you can see why they aired it late here in North America. And yeah, I know it's cultural differences between us and Japan, but that's still something worth talking about. In fact, the director replied by mentioning it should have been given more careful consideration to the episode before airing it. In fact, the scene was actually extended in one of the compilation movies. Let's hope to God the movie got a PG-13 when it was released in theaters. I mean, Jesus Christ, who the fuck shows kids these kind of shows at 6 p.m.? But despite the controversy and some shocking moments, the series is also hated for one other particular reason. And that's the fact that the show that came after it, Gundam SEED Destiny, was a total fucking disaster. It took a show like Gundam SEED and upped the ante in what the fuckery. I don't even know half of what happens in this show, but from what I heard, it's complete batshit insanity that makes no goddamn sense. It's the equivalent of Batman Forever being paired with Batman and Robin given they were directed by the same guy and had the same weird tone. But remember, Batman Forever is actually a decent movie, while Batman and Robin is a total disaster. The same thing can be applied to Gundam SEED. So, with that said, guys, I can actually defend this show and say it's a decent Gundam series in my opinion. I mean, for God's sakes, where do I even start? The characters are all great. From Kira Yamato, Athrun Zala, Princess Lacus, that purple Han Solo pilot motherfucker, Princess Halo Badass. Yeah, some of the characters I can't even remember. Female Captain Picard, which, by God, I would totally follow her into battle. And of course, like I said, probably the most controversial character, Flay Ulster. Now, granted, guys, the first thing I ever saw of this character was the final episode, which included stuff like this.
Kira, I've wanted to apologize to you for so long.
Why you, Flay?
I was in such pain. I was always...
Yeah, you can see why I was easily attached to this character. And no, it had nothing to do with the fact that she floated down like an angel with her sexy ghost body holding Kira as he cries.
Oh, my love, my darling.
Nope, we're not going there, buddy. It was due to the fact that, honestly, when she gave her speech, I felt kind of bad for the character. Maybe it's me just enjoying tragic, damaged characters and feeling sorry for them, but I honestly did when I first watched this episode. And when I went back and watched the series from the beginning, I still felt that sympathy. However, my opinion changed when a certain event happens early on in the series. As it turns out, Flay Ulster is actually the daughter of a head commander of an army that the Earth forces want to ally with. However, the Zaf forces have other plans. Ouch. And once she sees her father die, Flay goes into a completely mental state. It's not even sympathetic, it's actually quite terrifying. She almost becomes a villain in her own right. She blames Kira for the death of her father and wants to see him basically in every battle until he dies, completely whoring herself out to him. And on top of that, she had a boyfriend with this nerdy motherfucker and straight up tells him, yeah, I've been fucking your best friend.
This has everything to do with him. I spent last night all alone with Kira, get it?
Jesus, this bitch is a sadist. I totally changed my mind about this character.
Oh, my love.
Maybe. Just maybe. But aside from the redheaded thought over there, the other female characters are actually kind of kick-ass. The military chick I actually think is kind of cool, and it also turns out she's a princess of her own planet. Lacus, while being kind in nature and showing her badass moments, can have a bit of an annoying voice. She's voiced by Chantel Strand, whose voice you might actually recognize from another series.
My, it's pretty clear this isn't a Zap ship, is it? How many times do I have to tell you? I'm dead, you stupid idiot!
That's right, it's Mayu from that episode of Inuyasha that made you all shit bricks. I'll talk about that episode some other time. But despite that, I think she's an okay character, and it's actually kind of cool that she ends up with Kira instead of Athrun at the end. However, surprisingly enough, my favorite female character is actually Captain Romneus. She's actually pretty badass, and honestly, I would follow her into any battle aboard the Archangel. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, that's a captain I would totally hit the helm at. And speaking of the captain, I want to take this time to talk about my favorite ship in this series, and that of course being the Archangel. Good God, I love this ship. I can now actually consider it one of my favorite ships in science fiction history. It's like if the Millennium Falcon and the Starship Enterprise had a badass love child. It's just fucking awesome. It has missiles, laser guns, machine guns, and has a fuckload of space for a ton of Mobile Suit Gundams. In fact, Kira's Gundam is probably my favorite and iconic Gundam vehicle. And as an introduction to this franchise, it's actually pretty cool. It's also got machine guns, daggers, a jet fighter pack, and frickin' giant lightsabers. Okay, I know Gundam has had these weapons for a long time, but giant robots with giant lightsabers. How fucking cool is that? And not to mention, the other Gundams are pretty cool as well. And yeah, there's way too many to count, so while we're on the subject, let's talk about the villains of the series. I won't include Athrun because he actually ends up becoming a hero at the end, and while the villains are pretty stock and come off more as Imperial soldiers working for the likes of Emperor Palpatine of all things, the main villain, Raoul Crescent, I can't pronounce his name right, guys, is a manipulative and cold-hearted bastard. He always appears in public with his unique mask covering his face. He becomes famous early in the war during some of the early battles, and is pretty much the elite head of the Zaf forces. He always stays in shadows, and that's what makes him kind of interesting, because you want to see what's behind that mask. And on top of that, much like the Joker, he just wants to see everybody burn to the ground, and he doesn't care who gets in his way. Now, surprisingly enough, you think this guy would be voiced by the likes of Paul Dobson, who you guys might know as the voice of Naraku on Inuyasha, but surprisingly, he's actually voiced by Mark Oliver, who does a pretty damn good performance in the Ocean dub. In fact, the final showdown between him and Kira Yamato is actually pretty epic given the fact that these guys just argue throughout the whole thing. Both characters are heated between one another, both showing their weaknesses and desires.
This is our destiny. People knew where they were heading when they chose to walk this path. Shut up! Justice and faith, ignorance and escapism. They never learn. They never listen.
And of course, in the end, it's Kira Yamato who delivers the final blow, especially given the fact that this motherfucker killed his girlfriend by running him through with a lightsaber. Giant robots with giant lightsabers, I just can't get over that. But yeah, there's so much more I could talk about with this show, but I wanted to kind of defend it and separate it from Gundam Seed Destiny, which I know a lot of fans hate. Now some people might be asking, which version should I watch, the Japanese version or the English version? Well, in my opinion, given it was the first one I really watched, I would recommend the original Ocean English dub. Most notably for the amount of voice actors involved, including Matt Hill, Scott McNeil, Richard Ian Cox, and several others to count. These guys do a bang-up job in Vancouver and actually provide some of my favorite anime English voice dubs. But very recently, it was announced that a new English dub would be produced. Given the fact that the Gundam rights were handed over to another company, unfortunately the English dub DVDs are completely out of print and are really expensive on the market. And for a lot of fans, this new dub might be hit or miss, but there's some pretty talented people being involved in it. And it's more to update it for the HD remasters that came out recently. However, in my opinion, if you can find it, I would highly recommend the Ocean dub. But from my perspective as a whole, Mobile Suit Gundam SEED is still a pretty kick-ass show, despite the controversy and hate from fans. It's honestly a pretty good space opera, filled with dramatic characters, a dark and political world and storyline, action scenes and animation that are beyond spectacular, and music that's actually pretty emotional. If you've never watched a Gundam series, I'd highly recommend checking it out, but there are some other series you can enjoy as well. But of course, make sure to avoid Destiny because from what I heard, it's fucking garbage. And to close off this editorial review, I want to bring up a subject I talked about in my live-action anime video. Because actually very recently, with the success of Ready Player One, Legendary Pictures announced that they have acquired the rights to a Mobile Suit Gundam movie. Now, I know they probably won't do Gundam SEED and will most likely do the original series, but if push comes to shove, the Gundam franchise becomes super popular in the movie world, and they get up to Gundam SEED, there's one director I would choose for a Gundam SEED movie, and that of course being Rian Johnson, who most of you might know as the controversial director of Star Wars The Last Jedi. And despite the controversy, that seems to be up his alley, so yeah, bring him on for a Gundam SEED movie, given that's controversial in its own right. I think the two would honestly go hand in hand, and even watching The Last Jedi, I saw a lot of Gundam SEED in there. So yeah, definitely bring him on board. Hell, cast Adam Driver as Aether and Zala, I think he'd be a perfect choice. But if we don't get a live-action movie, there's always the manga and the anime to keep you entertained with your sci-fi space soap opera. So yeah, guys, that's all I have to say about Mobile Suit Gundam SEED, and I might give this anime a proper review in the future, but I just wanted to defend it given its controversy and some minor hate from fans. But of course I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Mobile Suit Gundam SEED? And what's your favorite Gundam series? Let me know in the comments section below. So until the next video, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms, signing off.